Hi, I'm Roger Blum with Cruise and Port Advisors, and I'd like to welcome you back to our Take on Cruise with
Shannon.
and Roger.
And my name's Shannon McKee of Access Cruise. It's good to be back, and Roger, good to see you. It's been a whole week.
I've missed you.
I know, I've missed you too. It's a love fest, what can I say?
Oh, you had to get out of town with the family, I understand.
Well, it's summer. That's what we do in the summer, right? And it's hard to believe that summer's starting to wind down. Now, I think everybody in Europe's on vacation right about now as we come into August. And we kept saying at the beginning of the summer that things were going to slow down, but it hasn't, especially in the COVID world or the post-COVID world, that we're seeing some relaxation to some of these, different protocols that were in place.
That's right. When we spoke before, we were discussing how the CDC has pretty much eliminated their reporting and much of their oversight as far as the day-to-day COVID protocols on the cruise ships. But with that, the cruise lines are now announcing different types of testing requirements or lack of or relaxing testing requirements. So with all of these different announcements, it is absolutely, totally 100% clear that it's confusing.
Very confusing. And I think it's wonderful that the cruise lines have been able to relax their testing protocols, pre-testing protocols, and coming on board the ships. But when you and I were talking about it, it's only for cruises, many of the cruise lines for cruises under 5 days, but they still have to follow the guidelines of the countries they'll be visiting. So that excludes countries such as the Bahamas and Grand Cayman. So you still must, and Bermuda. So you still must test if you're going to any of these destinations.
That's right. And when you think of a cruise 5 days or less, at least from the east coast of the U.S. and Florida east coast, they all go to the Bahamas, so you still have to test. If you're doing a cruise out of Los Angeles, you're in good shape because for Mexico you don't have to. And the cruises in the Gulf, such as Tampa, Mobile, New Orleans, Galveston, for the most part, they're going to Mexico, so you're okay. But if they do a longer cruise, well, I guess that would be more than 5 days, you're in good shape. So it is a little confusing. You still need to follow up, check with the cruise lines because these things are changing.
Yeah, I was going to say, we can just call you. You seem to have it all down.
That's right. For now, although while we're standing here doing this, something could have changed.
Again.
So
exactly.
Keep up with the cruise lines. And the other thing that really hasn't been clarified is what's going on with the vaccination requirements. Right now, everybody's still requiring the vaccinations.
Yeah, but what we hear is that those vaccination requirements are going to be lowered. So at one point in time, based on the CDC's guidance, the cruise lines had to have 97% of the ship had to be vaccinated. But what we're hearing now is those numbers will start to come down slowly as well, although we haven't heard any exact numbers on what the vaccination rates will be for on board, which leads us into Europe, which is completely different from what's going on over here in the US and the Caribbean too, with the vaccination requirements.
That's right. Up until very recently, if you were an American going to Europe to take a cruise, you had to follow, obviously, the entry requirements for Europe, which meant that you needed to be fully vaccinated. Now, the definition of fully vaccinated for most of Europe was that if your vaccination was more than 270 days old, you also needed to be boosted. Now, many countries in Europe are relaxing that. I represent Martinique, which is a French island in the Caribbean, but their regulations come from Paris, even though they are in the Caribbean. And just now, on August 1st, we got some exciting news that France was eliminating the vaccination requirement and leaving testing up to the destination, depending on current COVID situations. So for Martinique or for France, you no longer, at least today, need vaccination or testing, which is just wonderful.
Which is really wonderful. But as you said, because of all the different countries, such as Italy, we just got back from Italy this summer, and we have some great clients over in Italy. Again, no requirements around the vaccination and testing. However, we're going to Spain for Sea Trade Med, and right now there still is requirements around being vaccinated or boosted with that 270-day window.
Well, the one thing for sure, the cruise industry worked very hard to become the safest vacation experience you can have. And I know at first people were thinking, wait a second, how can they do it? Well, they've proven that they could do it. And one thing for sure, I don't think the cruise lines are going to do anything that is going to endanger that designation as the safest vacation alternative you can have. So they're looking at this carefully. They're taking some baby steps. Things could change in either direction because their goal is for the guests, for their crew, for the destinations they visit, that it's the most safe way to travel.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. And speaking of the cruise industry, we have our next cruise conference, which we've been talking a little bit about. So we do have Sea Trade Med coming up. You and I are both ambassadors, and if you hadn't had a chance to register, make sure you register, and we'll put in the link, the code, so that you can get a discount.
10% discount for our viewers, maybe,
Yes.
and also some of the other ambassadors, but we're the ones that count.
Absolutely. So we hope that we'll see you in Malaga, which is September 14th and 15th. Of course, we will both be there. I love the conference programs. There's some really great discussions. In fact, the one discussion that you and I are going to do is around sustainable itinerary planning, which I think is going to be a huge topic because it's going to change the entire landscape. And I think it's really important that destinations understand what's going to attract the cruise lines in.
Yep, there's a lot to learn, so we look forward to seeing you. It's getting close, just next month. So
Exactly.
Before we see you in Malaga, we'll see you back here on Our Take on Cruise.
Bye.
Bye.